thrilled to have you here with me. Today is April 23, 2023, and I'd be happy to provide a quick summary of today's most important news for you. I have 4 news briefings to cover. Firstly, I will start with the news from the New York Times. President Biden announced that diplomatic personnel, who had been stuck in the midst of a brutal war for more than a week, were evacuated from the capital. Even before it went to war last week, everyone wanted a chunk of Sudan, an expert said of the strategically located country rich in natural resources. The court's order ensuring access to Mifpristone seemed to vindicate a commitment to leave further questions about abortion to the political process. The expertise of his officials has helped President Vladimir Putin largely keep the economy afloat. The Times spoke to one man who fled to New York. The mother lode of winter storms has sent water blasting through parts of the Sierra Nevada, leading to more glittering discoveries by prospectors. It would be the first time the federal government has limited carbon emissions from existing power plants, which generate 25% of U.S. greenhouse gases. Proponents say the state's laws aim to give parents control over their children's education. But many educators say the rules have brought chaos and fear. Analysis: there is little reason to think the network will adjust its coverage after its $787.5 million settlement with Dominion. Its audience won't let it. Scientists said they spotted more than 13 million tons of sargassum in the Atlantic Ocean last month, a record for March. Early adopters thought cryptocurrencies would be free from prying eyes. But tracking the flow of funds has become a big business. The suspension of 5 players, 3 of whom bet on NFL games, exposes the league's unsure footing on sports gambling. Also in this edition, Kerry Russell's return to television, and a bounty of wildflowers in California. A board game challenges players to decarbonize New York City, and experts are paying attention. Bewigged, bejeweled and bejowled, Mr. Humphreys's creation was one of the longest-lived characters ever channeled by a single performer. The depth of talent in women's elite marathoning continues to grow, outpacing the men. Expect stacked races to follow. Community, which was first marketed as a way for celebrities to text their fans, now has big brands on board. The first major meteor shower of the spring is the Lyrids. Here's how to catch its peak this weekend. Coachtopia, a new sub-brand from the American fashion house, uses waste or recycled materials to make new products. Will it catch on? A date becomes a spy skirmish in this rom-com with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas. Goalie Nicky Quaid has helped transform his county's place in the ancient Irish sport. Followed by the news from the media outlet Financial. The American operation came as Saudi Arabia sent a Navy ship to extract 157 people. Disclosures show one representative on the House Financial Services Committee sold SVB shares a day before it collapsed. Berlin warns shortening time before generic drugs are allowed to market will stifle industry investment. Decision to grant access to 4 military bases near Taiwan infuriates Beijing. Rating agency also indicates that economic risks have subsided in UK. Decision halts limitations imposed by a Texas judge earlier this month. His battle against the commander of the armed forces is currently engulfing the country. Tennessee City, known for bachelorette parties and country music, has filled with protesters. Beekeepers backed by 20 EU states call for tougher rules on fraudulent honey. Countries that are losing demographic ground may fall back on old tricks to force women to bear children. Regulator delays authorization of America-related titles and instead promotes critical volumes. Beijing's world trade dominance will make cutting it out of global supply chains a tough task. State media says university leavers should put their professional ambitions on hold and consider lower-skilled roles. Lenders increase provisions for losses on property loans as office values drop. Pre-election campaign to launch as business bodies members search for alternative ways to engage with Westminster. London climate protest will test whether the activist group's new peaceful approach can legitimize the movement. Draft bill expected within days that will put CMA's digital markets unit on a statutory footing. Macron's geopolitical vision may be incompatible with growing need for European cohesion, though some believe his message has long-term relevance. When property developers place brand, the result can be incongruous, inappropriate, or just laughable. Rishi Sunak would be better focusing on primary schools than making students study the subject of age 18. And then the BBC News. The American military evacuated embassy staff and their families overnight, President Biden says. Indian police have arrested self-styled Sikh preacher Amritpal Singh, who was accused of attempted murder. Russian musicians and artists face a choice: support Putin and the war, or lose the spotlight. The magazine's publisher apologizes to the Formula One legend's family over the deceptive story. The Madrasa library, which contained priceless manuscripts, was recently burned down by a mob of rioters. A preacher in custody allegedly told followers to starve themselves in order to meet Jesus. Support for building nuclear weapons is growing in the country as tensions with the North rise. The Japanese ship was torpedoed off the Philippines in 1942, killing nearly 1,000 Australian prisoners. The BBC has verified videos of fighting and spoken to fleeing residents to map the violence in Sudan's capital. New Zealanders residing in Australia for 4 years or more can now apply directly for citizenship. A host of audio apps are making learning about India's history and culture more enjoyable. Mr. Murakami is one of Japan's most loved literary exports, but his work is not without criticism. This week, U.S. technology giant Apple also opened its first 2 retail outlets in the country. Louis is 4th in line to the throne following the death of the late Queen Elizabeth II last September. And final is the Japan Times. Ramen shop owner shot dead in Kobe. Suspect in axe attack against his 2 sisters found dead in western Tokyo. G7 farm ministers meet to enhance food security amid Ukraine war. 2 more SDF planes leave Japan to prepare for Sudan evacuation. Kishida on demographics, defense and disparity. ChatGPT can be tricked to write malware if acting in developer mode. Global oil traders focused on potential boom in China holiday air travel. Activists gather for Earth Day and urge action to avoid dystopian future. Philippines and China to open more communication lines to resolve maritime dispute. U.S. plans to slash planet-warming pollution from power plants. Italy may pull out of China's Belt and Road Initiative as U.S. backs stronger break. Thai authorities issue extreme heat warnings for dozens of provinces. How the U.S. Clean Air Act lets closed coal plants keep polluting for years. Ukraine planning to apply for membership in major Pacific Trade Pact. Rakuten Bank shares surge in Tokyo debut after IPO. Credit Suisse at one bond write-off hands $1 billion loss to Japan investors. Japan's broadening inflationary pressures test BOJ's dovish stance. Taiwan quietly urges U.S. to calm rhetoric on China chip dangers. That's a wrap for today's international news highlights. Hope you all got the lowdown on what's happening around the world and that your listening skills have reached new heights. Catch you all tomorrow. See you.